Welcome back to TinyBlueGames. My name's of course Csaw or Chris, and today I'm telling you a story about World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV in 2021. So, the internet is once again full of people trying Final Fantasy XIV for the first time and finally seeing Hydaelyn's light. Because of that, I thought it would be a great time to share my own experience as someone who played WoW and then transitioned to Final Fantasy XIV, but also still plays WoW. Yes, that's right, I left World of Warcraft to try Final Fantasy XIV and didn't burn down everything Blizzard related in the process. In fact, I'm still very much an active player in both games, just in very different ways. To better explain this, I should give a bit of a timeline as to how I got into this situation, so here we go, and I do apologize for viewers of this channel who have heard this story 1,000 times. So I started playing WoW during Wrath of the Lich King, you know, tall guy, silky gray hair, wants to enslave the world, and then ended up playing all the way until the launch of Mist of Pandaria. After MoP, I split from WoW to explore different MMORPG-related interests, such as Rift, Guild Wars 2, Wildstar, Rest in Peace, Black Desert Online, The Elder Scrolls Online, Neverwinter. I'm sure there's lots more. I think we all just take a bit of time to rediscover our love for a specific genre now and again, and that's kind of what I was doing. However, I also tried the free trial of an MMORPG named Final Fantasy XIV. Now, I was originally quite hesitant to try this game as I had not played Final Fantasy 1 through 13, but I figured, what the heck, it's a trial, let's give it a go. Turns out, there was a lot I liked about this game. However, I also had made some pretty big adjustments to how I played MMOs, and we'll touch more on that in just a second. But let's finish the history lesson. I returned to WoW for BFA, and yeah, we all know how that went, and then took a small break once everything started sprouting tentacles, and then finally returned for real once Shadowlands began. However, in this time, I never stopped playing Final Fantasy XIV. I just played much slower, like really slow. As in, I've played for 2 years and I'm just now entering Stormblood. And with that, the first question you might be asking, especially if you're a Final Fantasy XIV player, is, you've played for 2 years and you're just now getting to Stormblood? How? Yup, starting Final Fantasy XIV was really the turning point for me. I missed loving MMORPGs. I used to really love playing them. I remember playing games like MapleStory or RuneScape or World of Warcraft whenever I first started playing, Guild Wars 2 when I started playing, for hours, just loving being in the world and experiencing the little things. However, in recent years, I still enjoyed playing the games, but some of the magic was gone. It seemed like I mostly enjoyed the start of each game, the learning phase, or for the lack of a better word, being a noob. And that kind of makes sense. The best part of MMOs, in my opinion, is being introduced to a new world and story. So I decided to try something different with Final Fantasy XIV and take my time. I know, a radical idea, but think about it. When was the last time you consciously decided to take your time, turn off Spotify or whatever else you listen to, and really just let yourself be immersed with the game? I only played when I wanted to, I didn't rush to end game, and I didn't compare myself with others. It was slow and painful at points in A Realm Reborn, but something definitely happened. I started noticing the little things in the world. I started making friends inside the game, and I started loving the overall feeling of just being inside of Final Fantasy XIV. It was great. So then, with my love of Final Fantasy XIV found, why did I not simply just play Final Fantasy XIV? Because I knew I needed a game to grind. Part of why I love MMORPGs is the min-maxing. Not that I'm great at it, but I just love the small rush of knowing that I'm better than someone in some way. And I don't know if that makes me a horrible person, but it's definitely one of the highlights of MMOs. I love rushing through content to be first. I love running dungeons to get eye levels, to get harder content to get more eye levels. And do you know what game does that really well? World of Warcraft. Can you do it in Final Fantasy XIV? Absolutely. But I wanted to separate those two styles of playing to see if it made a difference. It did. See, I have a group of friends in real life that I play most MMORPGs with. We like to play together and love trying to grind our way to the top. Be it Guild Wars 2, ESO, WoW, Final Fantasy XIV, or any of the other games I mentioned above, it's what we like to do when we're in game. Now, most of these friends hate questing in MMORPGs, and I don't blame them, but I would also hate an MMORPG that didn't have quests or story. It was with these friends that I started playing WoW originally, and it was with these friends that I returned to WoW for the most recent expansions. It's a lot of fun playing with friends, but I often found that I needed to rush quickly through content to get to the level that they wanted to play. It would often result in me skipping through quests, exploration, leveling progress to catch up with them. This was alright, but I felt like I was missing some of the magic that made me love MMOs to begin with. So instead of trying to change what they enjoyed doing, I simply decided to spend my time doing a bit of both, and it has been amazing. As stated above, the slow pace of Final Fantasy XIV and the focus on story progression and world building has brought back a lot of the magic I found to be missing in recent years of me playing MMOs. But not only that, being able to mentally accept that I play World of Warcraft for the competitive side of gameplay has allowed me to focus on the types of gameplay I want to play. Instead of feeling like I'm missing out on things to catch up with friends, I've acknowledged I'm playing this game for the parts I like, and that's okay. It's one of those situations where one type of gameplay isn't better than the other, they're just different. The combination of WoW and Final Fantasy XIV made my experience with both games even better, and I can't see myself stopping anytime soon. There are additional benefits, such as playing one game more when one game is between patch cycles, or focusing on one game that has an event currently active. It's great because I feel like I always have something to do in game. Now, you might be sitting there and thinking to yourself, wait, so you pay 2 sub fees? And yes, I do. I do because I think it's worth it. And I know not everyone can do this, but similarly to how people defend sub fees in general for MMORPGs, there are a lot of different ways, and in my opinion, worse ways I could rack up $30 a month if I wasn't paying for these games for entertainment instead. And whenever you look at the hours spent playing versus the dollars you spend on MMORPGs, it rarely feels like a waste overall. It's one of the cheaper forms of entertainment if you compare dollar to hour. Also, you could take things a step further and you could just pay for one game at a time. So you could have a sub running for WoW for a couple of months and then switch over to Final Fantasy XIV when there's something you want to do there, and then switch back to World of Warcraft when there's something you want to do there. And that could work out for some people who really don't care about being cutting edge in either game. But if you're like me and you want to rush in one game, it does make sense to have it always active, or at least prioritize it being active at the release of a new expansion or a new patch cycle or something like that. So it's to each their own, but there's definitely a lot of options there. There's additional options even in the way you pay. I definitely know that for, I'd say, almost a full year of Battle for Azeroth, I paid for my sub fee with the WoW token with in-game gold. So it was pretty easy to keep the game active, even though I wasn't playing as much as I used to. And it was kind of a nice way to sort of slip into this, because I really didn't feel as much pressure about playing the game when I wasn't actively paying with real money. And I just took that as kind of a test period and continued it into once the token gold was dried up, and just kept doing that. And it felt like the right thing to do. But everyone's their own person, and you might not agree with, this in general. So what's the point of this video? Well, to be blunt with you, I wanted to capitalize on the trend of Final Fantasy versus WoW content, but I didn't want to do just another comparison video. There's nothing wrong with comparison videos, and I'm sure I'll do more in the future. I've done plenty in the past, but I feel like this video shares a perspective that less people are talking about, and I really think that they should be. So with all that said, what are your thoughts on the WoW versus Final Fantasy XIV debate? Can one survive while the other lives? Is WoW doomed to die? Are you playing more than one MMORPG? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing for more content. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next video.